This is my fourth Conexpo. I love it because it's commerce, invention, entrepreneurship, capitalism, and a lot of people who really get it all in one place. You know, essentially, it's a lot of big brains walking around looking for the right tool, and that's always fun to be around. You know, in 1,000 different ways, but mostly. I like to come here because I wind up seeing people who who remind me of dirty jobs. You know, I've not individually or specifically, but I've met all these people over the last 10 years. You know, construction sites and sewers and bridges and all of it. Yeah, it's like coming back to an extra long version of the show. My interest in the trades began when before I was sentient, really. My granddad lived next door to us in a little farm up in Baltimore, outside of town, and he only went to the 8th grade, but had he gone to engineering school, he would have built bridges. I had a real appreciation for that gene, as far as I can remember. Unfortunately, it's a recessive gene in my case. I didn't get it. So I spent most of my teenage years very frustrated because I couldn't do what my grandfather was doing on a day-to-day basis. Dirty jobs ultimately wound up becoming a tribute to him and people like that who just have that skill. Because when he was my age, he was heroic in his neighborhood. Today, guys who can do what he can do, who are my age, they're mostly invisible. The country's not blown away by that level of skill, not the way it used to be. And so that's part of why Dirty Jobs was important to me, because it gave us a chance to celebrate work, you know, the way that my grandfather remembered it. Go Build Alabama became the first example of what MicroWorks was always intended to do. It became a resource not just for individual people looking for new jobs, but it became a resource for people trying to put together their own advocacy campaign. This whole thing's about PR, right? I mean, the whole point is to generate a conversation about jobs that are actually existing and available. There should be Go Build America, and maybe one day there will be, but right now it's fits and starts. You know, this state, this community, depending on really who's pushing the initiative hardest and how. Smooth roads and indoor plumbing and affordable electricity, these are things that make civilized life possible for everybody. So, you know, all the vocations that touch on those things are important, and what the government's role is in making sure that happens, it's beyond my pay grade. Certainly they should be involved in making sure they're not in the way, so it can happen, and I imagine there are any number of things they can do to encourage certain types of work. This is just a long way of saying that the real problem in the country, in my opinion, is our relationship with work. It's not our policies, although those are important. I just think fundamentally an individual's relationship, an individual's definition of what a good job is what really matters. Because ultimately, all work starts with a sense of appreciation. And if the appreciation starts to erode, that's when skills gaps start to widen, in my opinion. Now, politically, people might say, well, look, all you have to do is just pay more money for the jobs, and the jobs will be filled. The other side might say, no, the problem is people are fundamentally lazy, and we have to challenge them there. And, you know, the moderates might say, well, you know, we just need more training programs. But the truth is, none of them are full. None of them. I mean, from community colleges to trade schools to, you know, Caterpillar has this program called Think Big. 4,000 people have gone through it. Nobody's ever heard of it. It's a great program. You know, 40,000 should be going through it. They're just simply not filled because they're not aspirational. Kids aren't standing in line for a chance to get into those programs because fundamentally people aren't impressed by the work itself. You don't have this problem with firemen, right? I mean, there's not a shortage of firemen. There's not jobs that are seen as heroic have no problem with recruitment, but plumbers aren't seen as heroic. They should be, because a lot of good ones now are making a couple $100 an hour when you can find them. I'm not worried about plumbers, steam fitters, mechanics, and welders. I'm not worried about them at all. They're going to be fine. I'm worried about the country. Selfishly, I'm worried about me. You know, I'm not a plumber, and when I need one, it's very dissatisfying to be told somebody will be over in 2 days. I've got a problem that needs to be corrected soon. So, you know, all we're creating our own nightmare.